What's the most important thing you can communicate to someone? Why you're doing something. Let's talk about your personal and professional why. Let's go. I'm Mark Perone with Rethink Revenue. We focus on setting sales records for the companies we work with and the individuals we consult with. Today, we're going to go over defining your why. I host Tech Corner. I'm a Alpha Team member on the Fuel Room on every other Wednesday to introduce new people to H7. And I'm on Diana Maureen's Alpha Team in the B2B tech space. And I hear a lot of 30-second commercials that more or less just don't resonate with an audience. A lot of times we talk about what we do and how we do it. There was an exercise last week on who are your competitors and what's your differentiator. Many people miss their why, and that's the purpose behind what you do. So I'm going to go over today how to help your 30-second commercial, how to motivate people to watch your videos through understanding your passion for what you do. I've got 2 videos I'm going to give you, and we're going to do an exercise in there. Both videos, one of them is a Simon Sinek video. You probably have seen it, What's Your Why? And the other one is something that's a little bit under the radar. It's Daniel Pink, What Motivates Humans. So both of those videos, one of them is like 2.5 minutes and the other one's 10 minutes. I'm going to give those to you to watch after we do our exercise, but I am going to go into how to find your why. Hello, everyone. I appreciate you guys coming to my room today. We're in for something that's really, really close to my heart today. There's a guy named Daniel Pink that started me on this path. He is an author of many, many books. He's a TED Talk speaker. He does events all over the United States, all over the world. I read a book years ago called Drive, and this kind of got me on the path to figuring out why CRM implementations fail. All right, so real subset topic around this concept, but I like to look at the problems that are associated with humans before I go into any of my strategy processes or systems. So when I started looking at that problem, it took me a little while to figure out what the real challenge was, the subset challenge within an organization when it comes to implementing CRM, but ERP also. And if those acronyms go by you, it doesn't really mean anything. They're just big systems that organizations use, right? So I worked for a company that sold CRM, a single product. This was years ago. And every single one of those organizations had challenges with people onboarding these systems. So when I started doing some deep dive effort around like what the real problem was, I came to a motivation issue. And that's how I got introduced to Daniel Pink. And I'm going to give you a document here in a second that has the 2 videos, one of them Simon Sinek, the other is Daniel Pink. And what Daniel explained, which was really cool to me, is employees don't necessarily get motivated by what we think they do traditionally. First and foremost, when you look at Maslow's hierarchy, your needs need to be met, right? So you need to make some money so that you can survive in capitalism, right? That's the idea here. Past that, after money becomes a non-issue, and just for the record, I've done some research around this, and it's a weird number. $72,000 per person in a household is a point where people become comfortable enough to have everything that they want, still have some needs. Have everything they need, but still have some wants. But that number is kind of a magic number for the middle class, right? It also correlates to LinkedIn. LinkedIn's average income per member is about 70 grand. So when we go on LinkedIn and we look at audience that's ripe for the picking, typically it's going to be like decision makers, and those people, are making at that point or above it on their annual income. So past this concept of money, right? The reason why this came up is like I get a lot of organizational leaders that have this attitude of they're my employee. I got a boot, they got an ass, so they need to do what I tell them to do. And that concept doesn't resonate very well in the culture of business. And what you get is a lot of turnover in those organizations that are steadfast in that. Now, interestingly enough, what I've found over the last 25 years, your older generation kind of buys into that a little bit. There's like a psychology around it where it's like, I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do, and I'm gonna do it in the most uncomfortable situation. Well, as time has come forward and those generations are kind of working themselves out, there's more meaning to what we all do. And that's what I want to get at today. I want to focus on why, okay? That document that I put in the chat outlines what we're going to go over today. And I know that you guys may not read it all today because multitasking and listening and doing stuff. But overall, the concept here is a little bit more refined than I've had it in the past. Diana was present with me when I did an exercise before, and I had everybody go around and do their 30-second commercials, but focus on their why, not their how and not their what, which is extremely difficult to do.
Most of us failed miserably.
All of you did. It was just a very difficult thing to do. And the reason why is we don't think about our passion as much as we should. Now, I do want to give you a little hint here. Does everybody know what an MLM is, or network marketing? Does anybody not know what that is? Each one of those salespeople for an MLM typically bought the product before they started to sell the product. And that's where their story starts. They're like, hey, I'm Mark Perone with Juice Plus. 20 years ago, I had insert some malady, and I started taking these magic pills. Well, after I took them for a set amount of time, I found that this was diminished. My malady was diminished. Any one of those MLMs kind of does the same thing. There's always a personal testimony associated with it. And what that is it's a focus on why in reality. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of being affected by an MLM. I think it's kind of garbage the way that they capitalize on the relationship side of things. But I am attracted to the style of selling that they employ. They do a gamified sales effort where you can build teams underneath you, and the more teams you build underneath you, the more money you can make, right? That concept of gamification is fascinating to me. The other thing that's always interesting to me is they template the behavior of all of their representatives. It always starts with testimony. There's a pattern to it. If you look at the science of that sales process, it's really cool and it's super effective. The magic beans are not that alluring until someone says, here's the testimony behind it, right? So what I want to do is reframe some of our thinking. Some people have been in sales systems before where they've worked with organizations that execute a system. Rafi, you were in the military previously, correct? When you went and you got your training, there was executables that you went through that every single person who started out had to learn basic fundamentals around many areas, and most of it was psychological adjustment, right? That same thing is what we're getting into today. There's a pattern to this. Why we do something is really the most important thing to somebody when you're communicating to another human. So capturing that purpose, capturing that passion in a way that's not hokey, that's true to your character and authentic, resonates far and wide. You will start to attract people that are interested in your why because it aligns with theirs, all right? So when you get into this, I started with the H7 perspective, and Clayton does a really good job of focusing on something that's a little different than other networking groups. He's created a networking community. That's a totally different word than networking group, right? There's a different feel to it. The concept of H7 is built around Clayton's why, to be totally honest with you. His connect, serve, ask is all embedded in his why. His serve is the most important thing to him across the board. Now, I don't drink the Kool-Aid because it tastes good, actually. I drink it because I really like Clayton's authenticity when it comes to the service aspect of things. He wants each of us to execute and serve one another. The ask part is the action that goes with the service. The connect part is the action of finding people that you can serve and they can serve you. Does that make sense? All right, so I want to start to replicate this a little bit, and it takes a while to change your psychology around this because your presets for your 30-second commercials are always off base from where I'm at. The most effective people, the people that you gravitate towards, are the ones who illuminate their passion for what they do. The concept of this, though, is defining your why, okay? So the 2 videos are embedded there. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so you guys can see that. I'm not gonna show the videos because the sound gets jacked up on the computer, but I encourage you to watch these 2 videos after. I promise you, when you watch the 2 videos, your headspace will change and you will be in a different place than you were when you started the day. It's very, very inspiring. Okay, both of these 2 guys are super awesome about creating a feeling around what they do. All right. Now, when I get into this a little bit, I started to describe things. In my world, my business is strategy first, people second, processes third, and then the systems that we all work in. Okay, that's how I address what I do. This is only an example, all right? I can go into lots of things. I can talk about CRM. I can talk about LinkedIn. I can talk about data connectivity and use a bunch of words that nobody really cares about in this environment. But I try not to. I try to come across in a different way. Sometimes, if you guys look at my face where it says Mark Perrone, RR, 0 point selling, when I'm in other meetings, I put down there miracle on wheels. Right? I'll put down something that is a little bit different. And the reason why I do that is because I want to come across with not necessarily how I do something, but my psychological approach to how things execute for me. All right. And it comes across really arrogant a lot of times, and I don't really mind that because I try to deter people that don't recognize the passion. But generally speaking, focusing on the why really creates a group around you. Okay. So as you read through this, towards the bottom of this document, we've got an exercise that I want to go into. The idea here is, without telling us who you work with, how you do it, what you do, or when you do what you do, can you tell us what inspires your professional identity within your business today? Okay. Your personal perspective is going to come through. It's going to shine through that thin veil if you offer your why. Okay. So here's an example, and I've put in a statement that generally I think everybody can kind of jump into here. My example, I am Mark Perrone. I do what I do because I love to see machines work. Nothing gives me greater pleasure than supporting people to create a business greater than the sum of its marketing and sales efforts. That's not 30 seconds. If I said it with conviction, put the spaces in there that I need to get it in a cadence that people could actually hear it, it resonates far and wide. And I said why. I did comment on who I work with, marketing and sales, but that was secondary to my why. All right. So down here, it's harder than you think to reframe your thinking and get outside the 30-second presets. When you started with your 30-second commercial, it was blocky and long, and you over-talked it and you didn't land it well. And then you started to refine that, and it turned into something that was probably pretty canned. So you lost the passion behind it. Once you say it thousands of times in these meetings, it becomes just a mechanism associated with your speech. If we get into rethinking this, touching on the things that resonate with you so other people gravitate toward you, you will change the dynamic of your strategic partners and those businesses that you want to do business with. I know I said business twice there. I should use different vocabulary, but sorry, it is what it is. All right, so take this statement. I am, insert your name. I do what I do because I love the thing that you love about what you do. What drives you to do what you do? Nothing gives me greater pleasure than. Push the thing out into the universe that is driving you to continue eating whatever kind of garbage you have to all day long to keep doing what you do. Okay. Now, a lot of people are like, for family and for like, that's still the wrong motivation. I want to know what it is for you, the feeling that you elicit, the emotion associated with your thought. That's what I'm trying to get at here, okay? Nothing gives me greater pleasure. Okay, so take this statement there and plug it into your why. If you capture your inspiration in a simple statement, you will create gravity around your mission, and you'll start to organically attract more of what drives you. This is what we call starting at the beginning. Okay, so this is really important to what I do. Go back to the root cause. Start to sequence from that root cause, whatever it is. Now, root cause sounds negative, but it's actually a general statement. What's the root cause of your passion? What drives you? Okay. Does everybody understand what I'm trying to get at here? Does anybody want more illustration on the point, or did I overtalk it?
I have a question, Mark, just to kind of zoom out. So what do you feel like, because our 30-second pitch is something that if we're at a networking group like H7, we're giving it out, right? So what do you feel like is the end goal of the 30-second pitch? Because I've heard different things. Does my question make sense?
So again, I'm like the science behind something is always really important to me. The logic behind something is really important to me. When I go into a room of any kind, I'm already separating the room into two audiences. Okay. I want them in one of two things. If they don't fit those two criteria, for me, I don't want to gravitate towards them. The first thing is your strategic partners. Those are developing your one-to-many relationships. Discovering who your strategic partners are really, really important. The second thing is the transactional perspective. Who's a potential customer, right? So a lot of times, if someone asks me first, I go into something like this. Now, this is really rudimentary, to be honest with you. I'm just trying to get the point across for you guys. I don't use this exact wording nearly anywhere. I always kind of paraphrase it. I'll go into a different focus, right? The concept of walking into a room with a 30-second commercial is your goal is to meet people and they're in categories for you. And they should be in categories for you. When you approach something with a game plan, a strategy, it changes the dynamic of the conversations, okay? Typically, I'm gonna try and ask a question to get somebody else talking to me, right? If they say, hey, what do you do? I'm like, well, I work in sales and marketing. Tell me about what you do and I'll explain what I do. The reason why is because my job's really hard to describe. Like what I do is infrastructure stuff, and I talk about this all the time. Like in the 1900s, cars were invented. We still drive cars today. They're completely different things now. They still have four wheels and a steering wheel, but past that, everything else has changed. When someone says I drive a car, I'm the guy who put all the systems in the newest car. And that's really hard to understand because you don't know that the mechanism that is the seatbelt is a subset system inside the car. Implement that, right? I can't explain all that shit in 30 seconds. It's really hard to do. If I know what you do, I can apply my knowledge of your business to what I do, and then I can get more into the conversation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I guess, and I know we're running out of time, so this will be my last follow-up, because I think what I struggle with is, I agree, what I do is also hard to explain because it's kind of a hybrid of better known jobs. And so I've had more general 30 seconds that have that story and pull in that emotion. And then people are like, well, what the heck do you do? And then I have a more tangible one and it's like, it doesn't resonate. So I guess that's just kind of my struggle, I guess. Not really a question in there, but. Yeah.
But isn't that what you want? You want a secondary follow-up question. Yeah. Don't get deterred by the fact that they don't understand. You want inquisition. You either want somebody to walk, like, in sales, we call it one finger or the other. Sorry, this is crude, but we call it this or this. I want one of those two things.
Okay.
Right? I want you to come towards me or I want you to go away from me so that I can get on with what I'm trying to accomplish. If someone asks you a follow-up question for clarity, that's your open door. A lot of times what you say is, it's hard for me to explain in this environment. Love to get your business card to meet with you, and then I can show you what I do related to your business.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so let's go around the room. Has everybody had a second to kind of figure this out? Anybody who's ready to go now? Linda?
I'll go real quick. Love some feedback on this. And I just threw it together, but I love to, I'm Linda Lewis. I love to see businesses become the vehicle of creating a better life for the owners, the employees, and the planet. Nothing gives me greater pleasure than improving the quality of life by seeing greater finances, relationships, and health improve as the business expands and creates a better profit margin.
Okay, a little bit blocky because you just threw it together.
Yeah.
That said, that's pretty attractive. That is a statement about who you are and what you do. That is your why. That's a really, really good way to do that. Good job. Really good job on that. We got about 120 seconds left, so 2 minutes. Does anybody else have any feedback for Linda on that?
Linda, I've heard we've been in a few H7 groups together. And that was great. Yeah, that really resonated in a different way than your 30-second pitch I've heard before. So
Great.
Iris, did you want to say something?
I said I like it, and I'm willing to go give it a shot.
All right, let's do it. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Iris. I do what I do because I love to help people tell their story. Nothing gives me greater pleasure than getting them out in front and helping them to connect to who they want to connect to.
So I like it around the theme. There's something in there that is a trigger for me, just so we're clear. Help is a loaded term. There's two words that are really, really indecisive to me. Help and solutions. Anytime anybody says either one of those two things, it's really diluted, all right? When you say help, there's an assumption that it's with dollar signs.
Right.
Right? You're calling in your business. And a lot of times when I'm with someone and I'm like, let me set up a CRM for you, I'll help you do it without dollar signs. That's help without dollar signs, because there's always this like, how can I help you? What that really means is, how can you get me paid, right? When somebody asks in the network.
Right, and it takes a position as a parent rather than a peer.
Yeah, so help is hard to replace. It's a good word on the surface, but when you project it into a room, it changes things. So I would refine that a little bit. Obviously, this was a 2-second deal, right? You didn't have a chance to do it. That said, can you say it again?
I love to get creative for helping people. Oh crap, I don't know.